for this evening's forum. Assisting us tonight are our timekeepers, Angie Bruna, and well, it looks like we have Laura assisting with keeping time, keeping us in line. And Heather's running the camera, so if it goes to the floor, it's her fault, not mine. Tonight we're going to break this up into three sections. The first, we will feature candidates for the Beatrice School Board. The second section will be having our 4 candidates for the 2 different wards here in Beatrice for the Beatrice City Council. And then the third part of our forum will be the mayoral candidates for this year. Prior to beginning tonight, we drew numbers to determine the order that our candidates would start. Each one of the candidates will have 3 minutes for their introductory remarks, and then we'll go to some questions. And again, members of the audience, if you have questions, write them down on a card, get them to Laura, and get them to me. We want to try and hit the topics that you're interested in or have questions about or want to hear the candidates address, so please do that if you have some questions. And we'd ask that the candidates keep their responses to our questions to about 2 minutes, and you'll see Angie over there holding up signs and a little stop sign eventually. And then we'll get to our closing remarks, but each of you will have 2 minutes. So at this time, we'll start with the Beatrice School Board candidates, Monty Loafing and Doris Martin. Mr. Loafing, would you start with your introductory remarks?
Okay, my name is Monty Loafing, a lifelong Beatrice resident and BHS grad. I have a daughter named Kenzie who is going to be a senior, and she works part-time at the Humane Society. My wife Donna is a para at the all-day preschool YMCA here in town. And I have a son, Chris, who is a film director in Fresno, California. And he just recently landed his first film, which will open worldwide in 2016. I am a truck driver by profession. I work weekends at Rockford Lake and part-time at Walmart for Nestle and Kraft Foods. I'm a former Beatrice School Board member, 4 years, and am seeking re-election. And would appreciate your support and your vote. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Loafing. Doris Martin, with your introductory remarks, please.
Okay. My name is Doris Martin. I'm seeking my second term on the Beatrice Board of Education. I currently work as a Career Academy Coordinator at Southeast Community College, and then also as a seasonal park guide at Homestead National Monument of America. Prior to that, I was the journalism teacher at Beatrice High School for 32 years, so I've had a long association with education, and that therein lies my interest in education. I'm also an active member in the community. I'm on the Beatrice Humane Society Board, active in my church, and just have found Beatrice a wonderful place to call home for the last 37 years. So I'm hoping that I can continue to serve the students in Beatrice Public Schools.
Thank you, Doris. Ms. Martin, we'll start with you with the first question. What can members of the school board do to curtail bullying at the Beatrice Middle School and at all of our locations?
Well, I think number one, we need to support administrators when they come with ideas to implement to reduce bullying. I think also that the implementation of the Boys Town training will hopefully help that along. And I also think that we need to serve as role models and not do bullying ourselves. But I understand that it's a problem. It becomes very problematic in today's society because of all the social media. And schools really have a difficult time. You know, we can control what happens in the building, but outside of the building, we have to educate parents and look to our parents and community for support. But I would guess that we just need to continue to focus on cutting down on the amount of bullying that occurs in our schools.
Mr. Loafing, same question. What can members of the school board do to help curtail bullying at the Beatrice Middle School and the other educational locations?
First of all, Ms. Martin made a comment that it is hard to track some of it with all the social media today. the texting that goes on. It's hard to track some of it. I personally think we need to be tougher. I'm not sure if we're just not tough enough. Maybe sometimes we look the other way, we tolerate it more. We need to teach our students that it's not acceptable. Always tell someone and just say no and put our foot down. And to be quite honest, I would probably be one of the candidates who would be expelling some of our students that are continuing doing that. I know that some people have a bigger heart and say, well, they just need help, they've had a bad upbringing, but they're disruptive. You're going backwards. You can't keep doing this over and over and over. And I don't know what the alternative is other than to remove them from our building and put them in alternative learning, which is probably something that I would strongly recommend that we do more of. And that's all.
Okay. Mr. Loafing, we'll stick with you for this next question. Would you support construction of a new centralized elementary school? Why or why not?
Glad you asked me that because I have some notes on that. First of all, the strategic plan has always been to build a central location for all our buildings out there. And what the board did was, of course, buy 93 acres, and now we're in the farming business. But it really was a good site. It really was a good location for what we want to do. My opinion would be not to build the elementary, but I would build the middle school first. And my reason is that I feel that our middle school students are denied an opportunity because they're not close enough to the House at Orange. So I would build a middle school out there by the high school. I'm not going to get into where. I would then consolidate grades 3 through 5 and put them in the old middle school. I would then consolidate pre-K through kindergarten and 1 and 2 and put them into 2 elementaries, close 2 elementaries. And the logic here is to get these kids used to each other. They need to get used to bigger classrooms, bigger sizes. They're all spread out. Some of them don't even know each other. So then once they're used to each other and this is going good, then I would consider constructing, and we've paid off the middle school, new middle school, then I would consider constructing first 1 elementary building, perhaps moving the preschool and up through grade 2 out there, and then eventually paying that off and then adding onto that building and then putting grades 3 through 5 out there. And then eventually I would also build a new bus barn maintenance also out there on that site. Thank you.
Ms. Martin, the same question. Would you support construction of a new centralized elementary school? Why or why not?
Yes, I think that that needs to be the next move. I think that when we look at our strategic plan, that would be the most logical thing to do next. I think we need to really focus. I think there have been a great many changes in preschool programs for the public schools and in what's expected of public schools. I think that we really need to look at that. And in order to serve those younger students, we're going to need to look at a different facility. I think he has some interesting points I hadn't thought about, but I really feel like we need to do something about our elementary buildings, go to one site. I think it will equalize class sizes. It will give us a chance for our teachers to communicate more with each other. Curriculum is really a focus right now. If we're all at one site, it's much easier to work together. So I think 1 elementary probably should be the first move of the district.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, we'll stay with you for this next question. Since both of you have been on the school board in the past or currently, what do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment as a school board member?
I would hope that people feel like one of the things I've accomplished is to get the focus back on what's best for kids. I think that it's really important when we make decisions that we put what's going to be best for students first, not necessarily what's good for staff, what's good for teachers, what's good for administrators, but put that focus on students. And I also feel like one of the things that was important to me was that we get negotiations to a point that they're settled before the school year starts, so teachers go back comfortable. And I feel like the relationship that we've developed between board and staff is positive right now. And I think, I guess I hope that people feel like I have done the very best that can be done for students in Beatrice Public Schools.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Mr. Loafing, the same question. What do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment during your term on the school board?
I would have to say there was three of them. First of all, being part of the strategic plan. I was part of facilities planning there. I do feel that our strategic plan needs revised. I do feel it's somewhat slipping out of date, but it is a great piece of work, and there was a lot of work, a lot of blood and sweat and tears into that plan. Other things would be the House of Orange, which everyone probably in town is proud of. And the last thing I would have to say is the PLCs. We're part of the board that helped get the early outs on Wednesdays, and I think that has helped our teaching staff immensely. And it's went well. It's been positive all around. I hear nothing but good things about it. So those would be my accomplishments.
Mr. Loafing, the next question. Are there any circumstances in which you would support building a new centralized elementary school without voter approval?
Can you repeat that?
Are there any circumstances in which you would support building a new centralized elementary school without voter approval?
Absolutely not. I'm sorry, but I feel the voters have to have a say in what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. In the past, the board has shown some carelessness when we built the high school. There was some building oversights there. There were some building oversights with House of Orange. This is something that whatever we build, whatever we do, we have to get it right. Just like the House of Orange was stressed, we have to get it right. And in my opinion, you cannot build without the voters' approval. And you're talking about a pretty big bond issue here to put a building with 800-900 students in it, and you definitely want as much public support behind you as you can. I think everyone in this room wants more for our students, wants a better school. It's just how to do it, where to do it, what to do it, and that's where I disagree with Ms. Martin. I still think our middle school should come first, and then the elementary. But that's just my opinion. I'm also concerned about what we're going to do with 4 empty buildings. I'm concerned about how we're going to, the traffic out there, what it's going to be like. There's a lot of things, but the more public you involve, the better. So that's all. Thanks for that sign.
Ms. Martin, the same question. Are there any circumstances in which you would support building a new centralized elementary school without voter approval?
Well, quite honestly, that caught me by surprise, because I suppose if Warren Buffett offered us $100 million, I mean, I don't know, but if we're going to use those kinds of tax dollars, I think obviously we have to go to the voters and ask their opinion. I mean, seriously, you can't, I just don't know where we would ever, there would just be, you just can't do that with tax dollars without their approval.
Well, this next question, Ms. Martin, is a little bit different, but what grade would you give the Beatrice Board of Education when it comes to being open and in tune with the public?
Well, and I'll be honest, it's been a real learning experience for me, because I sat on the outside for a number of years, and I would not give them an A for sure, but I think that oftentimes, I think a B would be appropriate. I think one of the things I would like to say in the past couple of years, I know that we've gotten a couple of black eyes. I don't know of other districts that have had the responsibility of hiring 2 superintendents in just a short amount of time. I think that a board does that maybe every 10, 15, 20 years, and we did it back to back. So I think that created some problems. I guess I think that the more open you are, the better it is for the public. I mean, as a a journalism teacher. Obviously, I stress that to my students. So I'm really comfortable doing things out in public. But I would say I would give the district a B and we need a little bit of improvement.
Mr. Loafing, the same question. What grade would you give the Beatrice Board of Education when it comes to being open and in tune with the public?
First of all, I would give us a C. We have learned a lot over the years, but we still have a long ways to go. We had board members who violated the Open Meetings Law twice. We were not open and honest with the board with the paper on several occasions. Our reputation has been not very good, and another reason why I'm running is to build that reputation back up. I feel I've always been open, outspoken, and honest, and I question what we've learned there. But I think we have a long ways to go. But Doris is right in one sense. We did not plan on electing superintendents back to back. That was very stressful. That was very difficult for the board, and mistakes were made, and now we have to move forward. But we have done very well with Mr. Nareth. He's awesome in my book, and if I elected, I look forward to working with him. That's all.
Mr. Loafing, we're going to hit you again. What would you do to make Beatrice school system more competitive with our surrounding districts?
Competitive as in, can you define what
Well,
sports?
let's
or-
talk about education
Okay.
and our scores. I don't think we're talking about football.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. Again, some of our surrounding districts have a little bit of advantage, in my opinion, as they are smaller student size. Beatrice has got what I call some jinxes going on. We have high poverty. We have high unemployment. We are an aging population, and we have a lot of SPED numbers. So when you combine all these things, you tend to drop in test scores. Again, if I can get back on the board, one thing I want to push for so badly is I want to learn, are we doing enough for our students, especially in the poverty ranks? Everyone says poverty is a curable thing. Well, what can we do to help? What can we do to fix it? What can we do to help cure it? I would give anything if our town had a couple hundred jobs come tomorrow. That's what we need, but it might not happen. But we have to fix the problems at hand. And so in order for us to be more competitive, I feel we got to spend more time addressing these internal problems that our students are having. And then if we can tackle that, we will get better. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, the same question. What would you do to make Beatrice school system more competitive with the surrounding districts?
Well, first of all, I think we are very competitive. I would take our ACT scores and compare them with any district surrounding us. They were very solid. We've made marked improvement in at all levels within the district. I think we just need to do a better job of letting people know some of the really good things that happen. I think we are able, because of the size of our district, to provide students with a number of unique opportunities, and I also think that we offer some specialized areas for students that get them involved and interested in school. I think we offer quality special education services. I think that there are we have had some students leave that will leave because they like a smaller environment. We cannot change that. Some people that's their comfort zone. But I think we do a really solid job of educating students. And I believe if you compare our test scores, they will show that we have done a good job.
Ms. Martin, we're going to stay with you. Do you support state or federal standards for proficiency in topic areas?
Past English and math.
Well, address.
Currently, we have them in English and math.
Do you support those standards
I think that they have done some good things in that I think more attention is being paid to the student that struggles. I think that's a real positive about standards. I think that there are also some negatives, like teaching to the test. I think there are some disadvantages, that being one of them. I think also for students who have mastered or are very proficient at certain skills, I think sometimes those kids have gotten lost. But I overall would say it's a good thing to let the public know what we expect at each grade level in math, science, English, and social studies. So I think that's made it more transparent to the public. I think curriculum has become something that people can talk about. So I think that I support them, but I also think we need to be careful about saying that's the end-all, that's the cure-all for public schools, because I don't think it is.
Mr. Loafing, the same question. Do you support state or federal standards for proficiency in topic areas?
I do, but I question how they're helping, and I believe this happened last year or the year before when we had not met our AYP, our math scores. I was real happy to see those came back. So obviously a lot of work was done in that area. And, Doris is right. You have to be working with those that need the help, and likewise you have to let the public know, hey, here's what's wrong, here's what we're working on, here's what we're fixing. So you have to have some kind of level or some kind of standard to go by. So, yes, I do support it.
I think we'll hit one more question before we do our summations. And you're going to have to help me and educate me here. I'm going to ask this question with the assumption that preschool education is not mandatory, but it is elective. And if that's wrong, correct me. So the question is, how important is preschool education within District 15?
I'm first.
You're first.
I think it's crucial. Everyone says you have to start, in the preschool years, age 3. I'm very proud that my wife is part of a program at the Y where they are now doing all-day preschool. I think Beatrice has been behind the 8 ball in that. They should have been doing that a few years ago. But they did do something great this year, and that was separated the 3 and 4-year-olds and got them into different groups, and I think that's probably helped. But I think the next step is you have to start recognizing problems with behavior, problems with learning, speech, hearing, whatever, and you have to start super early. And I think preschool is just a must. And that's all.
Ms. Martin, the same question. Educate me, is it mandatory? And the question really is, how important, in your view, is preschool education within our district?
Well, no, it's not mandatory for all students. I mean, we have that option is available, particularly for students that have special needs early on. I mean, for some students, Beatrice Public Schools starts helping at birth, but I think that we need to look at, for me, I think you need to look at all day, not necessarily all day of preschool, but you need to look at half-day preschool and half-day daycare or some combination, because currently we have a system that people can't get their child to. We have a preschool program that teachers really can't be a part of because you can't drop a child off after 8 in the morning and pick them up at 11:30 and be a classroom teacher. So I think that's one issue. The other thing is, in today's world, many people work all day, so I think we need to look at that. But that's one of the things why I think it's imperative that we look at building an elementary facility first so we can meet those needs. Currently, we have people on the waiting list, the preschool waiting list, and until we can meet those people's needs, I don't think we're serving the people in Beatrice. I think, like Monty said, it's crucial. I just think that's where education is today.
Let's go into our summations, and Ms. Martin, we'll start with you for your closing remarks.
Well, I have enjoyed serving students in Beatrice Public Schools the last 4 years. I hope I'm given the opportunity to continue to serve. I think there are some exciting things ahead for the district. I'm excited I got to be part of the board that, helped with the House of Orange. I thought that was really exciting, but I think there are some serious educational concerns ahead for us, and I think that we need to continue to work both as a board and as a community. This community is extraordinarily supportive of education. Every year I'm just humbled by the number of scholarship dollars that this community provides for graduating seniors. So it's an exciting place to live and be a part of, and I've been a part of the educational process here for a number of years, and I hope I get to continue in that role. So I would thank you for your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Mr. Loafing, your closing remarks.
I also want to echo that I love Beatrice, and I have always loved Beatrice Public Schools too. I feel that I'm a strong conservative citizen. I'm a solid listener. I'm not a rubber stamp. I'm very outspoken, and I just wanted to touch on a few ideas that if I was on the board, things that I would push for. A couple things I would do is as a board member, I would try and have board members present at parent-teacher conferences. I think we should be there. I think we should have a listening table, hand out surveys, and talk more with parents. As a board member, I think we should review the exit surveys of our seniors and find out where they're going and what were the strengths and what they liked and didn't like about our school. I would hold at least one meeting a year at the high school and at the middle school, perhaps in conjunction with booster meetings, and try and increase our attendance at board meetings. And lastly, a love of mine is, why don't we have an FFA program? I was in FFA in school here. We are surrounded by solid 4-H clubs. We're surrounded by agriculture, and we don't have an FFA program. I would really like to see that started at Beatrice. Again, I would appreciate your vote on November 4th. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you both. At this time, we're going to take a break, and again, thank you, Ms. Martin and Mr. Loafing, for participating. Well, welcome back. We now have the 2 wards for City Council, Wards 3 and Ward 4, and our candidates are, and I'm going to start over here so I don't get too confused, Joe Bilsbach and Alan Langdale. And then we have Dwight Party and Gary Frericks. We've kind of drawn numbers, and I've gotten myself confused, but regardless of that, Mr. Bilsbach, we're going to start with you for opening comments or opening remarks.
Okay. I'm Joe Bilsbach. I'm born and raised here in Beatrice. Lived here all my life, obviously. Work at a local jewelry store downtown, so I've been in the downtown business. Worked down there for 30 plus years. I'm co-owner down there. I have one daughter. She just graduated from Beatrice School. Just started up college this last week, so that's been tough getting her out of the nest, and looking forward to her growing up. Member of St. Joe's Catholic Church and the Knights of Columbus there, very organized, very involved with that organization. Very active with the Homestead Running Club and the Beatrice Big Blue Biking Club. I'm a very strong supporter of the trail system here in Beatrice. I think we do an excellent job here in town for the trail systems. I'm just, like I've been saying all along, I'm just your average Joe. I'm not a politician. I'm looking forward. I'd love to have the chance to be a city council member, to work with the community, work with individuals, to find, try to do some problem solving for what goes on in the city. been coming to a lot of the city council meetings for the last 5-6 months and finding out there is a lot of problems in this town. I commend these guys that are on the city council now for what they do. I know it's a hard job, and I know there's no easy answers for it. So I'd like to be elected, so please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bilsbach. Mr. Langdale, your opening remarks, please.
Thanks, Jim. Good evening. My name's Alan Langdale. First of all, I'd like to thank the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce for putting on this forum, people in the audience, and also the people viewing at home. I currently represent the 4th Ward on the City Council. I have lived in Beatrice my entire life. I have seen the city grow and change throughout the years, and I have grown and changed with it. I've been married to my wife, Deb, for 35 years. My wife and I have lived in the 4th Ward for 33 years. I would like to represent the 4th Ward on the Beatrice City Council for another 4 years. I promoted the Beatrice Speedway for 15 years. During this time, I started 3 major events, 2 which are still active today, which brought hundreds of people to Beatrice on weekends throughout the summer. While these visitors were in Beatrice, they spent money throughout the city, which made a huge economic impact to local businesses and the city of Beatrice through local sales tax money. During my time at Beatrice Speedway, I worked with the Gage County Economic Development, Beatrice Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Beatrice, and Homestead National Monument, not only to promote the Speedway, but to promote Beatrice in general. I would appreciate your vote on November 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Langdale. Switch over to the other side of the room, Mr. Party. Your opening remarks.
Thank you, Jim. I'm Dwight Party. I've been a council member for 12 years for 3rd Ward, and it's been fun most always. We've had our difficulties, of course. I worked at Beatrice State Developmental Center for over 30 years. I was a member of Nebraska National Guard as a medic for over 20 years, and I've sat on the board for Keep Beatrice Beautiful for the past 12 years. I look forward to having a chance to work with the people again out here in the city for the next 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Party. Mr. Ferricks, your opening remarks.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting on this event and people out in the audience and the folks at home watching on TV. My name's Gary Ferricks. I'm a lifetime resident of Beatrice. I've lived in the 3rd Ward for 30 years. I'm married, my wife Cindy. I'm a pro-business candidate and the only candidate I feel running for council in Ward 3 with business experience. I know our community cannot grow and thrive if our city council isn't positive in promoting our town's business and industry. With 30 years of business experience, including starting my own successful internet pet supply company from the ground up 8 years ago, I know firsthand how to handle the challenges of budgets, how to operate and producing more with less resources, how to promote an idea or a product. And I feel all these things are necessary and similar to what the City Council should do as representatives of Beatrice. I feel it's been a while since some of the best interests of the people who live in Ward 3 has been brought forth, and I'd like to change that with the help of your vote in November. I'm the candidate also that believes in term limits. There comes a time for a new candidate with new ideas, and I believe with all that Beatrice has in front of it that I'm the candidate for that. So your vote this November would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferricks. And if I got this right, Mr. Langdale, we're going to start with the first question with you. And it's a 2-part question, but it's not that hard. What do you think is really great about Beatrice, and what do you think needs a little tweaking or to be fixed?
Well, what's great about Beatrice is people chip in. We've got great support from the community organizations. Our school is phenomenal for what they do, for our education our kids get. Our town needs some help on getting the kids to stay after graduation, so I think that's one thing we need to work on pretty hard and to keep that so they either go to college, come back, or stay in college and stay in Beatrice. What was the second part? Did I get it all?
What needs fixed, if anything?
We've always have our infrastructure stuff that needs fixed that we need to stay up to date with. We've got some water mains that have been 100 years old in this community. So our infrastructure is probably the biggest part that we need to keep working on. Our roads and water and sewer are probably the three major. Electricity we stay pretty good on top of, but those three are probably the three utilities we really need to work hard on.
Thank you. Mr. Party, same question, two parts. What do you think is really great about Beatrice, and what do you think Beatrice needs to tweak or fix?
I think probably the best part about Beatrice is their volunteerism and their work ethic. We have a lot of great people that want to do hard work. We have some that don't want to, but they can be helped along. We have so many volunteer staff out here that help educate people, they help work with people, they help do projects that no one else would touch. They also help out a great time with financial issues we have, and it's probably smaller than big issues. Probably the worst things we have right now too is the taxes that fall upon us. Everybody hates to pay their taxes and pay for sewer and water, but at some point we're losing money and the city has to find a way to make some money and to make some repairs, or we're going to sacrifice too much again.
Thank you. Mr. Frericks, what's great about Beatrice, and what needs to be tweaked or fixed?
What's great about Beatrice is Beatrice itself. I've lived here 60 years. I'm going to continue to live here. We have a great school system. We have a great city. We have great people here. I think we need to not lose focus on that. What do we need to fix? We need to watch how we spend our tax dollars. We need to keep a pulse on the infrastructure that obviously needs updating. We need to look how to keep our streets in good conditions, our sewers, our water. We need to maybe our image a little. I think we can always improve that. If we think we're good, we're only fooling ourselves. I think we need to brush ourselves off. And with the changes that are coming, with the new mayor, the new city council members, I think we're going to have a new image. We have engaged with new people. I think working in harmony with everyone, we can set forth a can-do attitude, will-do, and work at keeping the people that are here. Don't let them leave. There's no reason to leave. I'm an example. I've been here 60 years. I have no intentions of leaving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frericks. Mr. Bilsbach, the same question, two parts. What do you think is great about Beatrice, and what do you think can be tweaked or fixed?
What I think great about Beatrice, we got a lot of good things about Beatrice. I love the small town feel. Got a lot of friends here, growing up here, like I said, my entire life. So you know a lot of people. You can walk down the street, see somebody you know, talk to them, hold the door open for somebody. You know, it's not like a big town feel. We have a lot of positive stuff going on. I love the fact that we have the Homestead National Monument right outside of town. I think it'd be great to promote that more. I don't know how, bring in tourism and stuff. Our school system, I think our school system is great. I love the fact that we got the new high school out there, the House of Orange. I think that looks very positive for our town. As far as stuff that needs help, obviously we need to find more jobs for people, more industry to come in. There is problems in our town with drugs, alcohol. I don't know how you go about fixing that from the city council standpoint, but there are problems throughout this town with that. Also, like everybody else touched on, I think we got problems with the roads, the sewer systems and stuff. Not drastically yet, but it's going to be coming up, so we have to figure out a way of funding those, whether it be through taxes or bonds or whatever. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bilsbach. And let's see if my notes are right. We're going to start with you, Mr. Party, for the next question. Under its current agreement, the City of Beatrice will provide up to $100,000 per year to Engage to promote economic development. In your opinion, is that a good investment? And how do we gauge whether it's a good investment?
Well, of course, I think it's a good investment. I helped be on the city side, setting with the county side when we worked this together. When we knew something needed to be done, you couldn't have areas doing a little bit here, a little bit there. We need to have a central focusing point. And we did try expressing the first when we did this, it's up to $100,000. We're not just handing them $100,000 every year and let them build a war chest up. So if they have the bill, we'll pay off part, county pays off part. It's really necessary to have that. It really is, just because you can't go up to the city administrator and say, how can we do this? You can't go up to a county board member and say, how do you do this? You can't get 2 council people to assist you do this. You need to have a central place. And she's already provided interest on how we're doing things. She's helped small businesses out. Measuring is a whole different story. We've learned that in the past from the other group we had. You can't hardly do it in set numbers because it's not a fixed thing. But their numbers are showing us all the time that we can evaluate.
Thank you. Mr. Frerichs, the same question. Under the current agreement, do you want me to repeat it, or you?
No, I have it.
You got it.
I got it.
You got it.
Yep, I got the answer too. Yes, we need engage. We need those folks to, on a daily basis, work to recruit industry and bring it to the Beatrice. We've got a bad past that we had with them. I think this new engage organization outweighs the former group. I like the fact that we need to set the benchmarks to a reasonable level, monitor them, make them prove what they're doing. We need to evaluate those. It's just like Mr. Party said, we're not just going to give them the 100,000 on an annual basis. We need to see what they're doing, and they have to prove themselves. We can't wait like we did. I think we learned from the past on the former committee. Without engage, we have a big void. So I do feel that we need them, and as long as they are worth their proving themselves, we'll continue to work with them and provide the dollars. They had to be transparent, and I think they are, so we'll just continue. I think it's work in progress. We'll work with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frerichs. Mr. Bilsbach, the same question. Under the current agreement, the city provides $100,000 to engage to promote economic development. In your opinion, is that a good investment? Why? And how do you measure or gauge that?
Okay. I'm not real up to knowledge on all the specifics about Engage. I know their purpose is to try to find and locate new industry in the town and bring new businesses. I think, yeah, we need to stay on top of them on what they're doing, find out. Like I said, I don't know a lot that goes into that, but we got to find a way of monitoring how they're bringing in businesses. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bilsbach. Mr. Langdale, same question. Good investment, and why, and how do we measure or gauge it?
As Dwight said, they are financed up to $100,000 by each city and the county. Engage, I believe, is going in the right direction at the current time. Glennis McClure is the new director there. I believe she's taken the reins well and has started to make that group go in the right direction. She's made a lot of contacts with local businesses besides what she does outside of that. But she has made some great strides in Engage and getting it going in the right direction. Dwight and I were both involved from the beginning of getting this organization up and going. We spent months and months and months meeting with the county and making sure we got this deal right on trying to get this group organized by county, city, different organizations, different people, different backgrounds and stuff. So I think they're going in the right direction. How you gauge them, it's tough. We get a monthly report from Engage every month on kind of their activity, what they're doing. You have to realize in economic development, a lot of it is not brought out to the forefront to the public because it can spoil some businesses wanting to come to town that don't want that information leaked out to them. So you have to be kind of careful how much of that information is given out. As a council, we don't even get a lot of that information. A lot of it's done by secret code names. We know they're talking to people, but we don't know exactly what may be coming or the name of the business. So kind of have to be careful in that. And judging it's a very difficult thing to do. Their contract comes due again in March of next year, so that'll be a time the city and county will have to take a look at it and see if it's been worthwhile and see if they want to continue it.
Thank you, Mr. Langdale. I'm going to switch to this side of the room again. Mr. Frericks, you're going to be the first one to get this question. I'm going to combine a couple of them. Let's talk about the city police department and the fire department. Are they adequately staffed? And do they have any facility needs that should be addressed?
Okay, without having more detailed information, it's a little difficult to answer that. From the outside looking in, with all the issues confronting the city, I would say that they are adequately staffed. They are the police department, and they have a newer facility. I think they should be in good shape. They just need to maintain what they have. Fire department, I think there's been a lot of update in machinery and personnel. I believe they're in good shape. I think they need to stay on top. But as far as new facilities and stuff at this time, that'd be a hard sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frericks. Mr. Bilsbach, same question. Police department and fire department, in your view, are they adequately staffed, and are their facilities adequate?
I guess I feel that we're adequately staffed. I guess I would need to talk with them themselves. I think they're doing a great job for what they have. I know as far as what they're supplied with, I think they've got good materials out there as machinery. I know the police have got new surveillance cameras that they use. I know that the fire department uses the new detection systems and stuff. They can go into fires. So, I mean, I think they've got up-to-date equipment. I'm sure they would love to have more staff, but how do you fund that? I've been to a few council meetings where they've talked about that, and it sounds to me like the budget is hard to put another person on staff for any of them. As far as facility needs, I guess I would have to take a tour of the facilities and see. I know they've talked for quite a while about wanting a new facilities for the fire department. And I guess I would have to do some more checking into that. Thank you.
Mr. Langdale, same question. Police department, fire department, do you feel they're adequately staffed, and are their facilities adequate?
I think the police department's adequately staffed as long as they don't run into troubles like they're running. Right now, they've got a couple of people on workman's comp and that type of stuff, so they're having to run some overtime on that. So when you run into those situations, you're always short of staff. But overall, I think the police department's in pretty good shape. Their facility, there's a new heating and air conditioning unit going in that now in about October, November. So I think that facility will be really up to where they need that to be. Fire department's a whole different ballgame. The engineer department, all that has been moved upstairs in the auditorium now, which has left the complete basement of the auditorium vacated. The plans are for the fire department to work into some of those areas, moving some of their apparatus and giving them some more room on the floor space for their fire trucks and ambulances and that stuff. As far as staffing goes, the fire department is way understaffed. With the amount of rescue calls that they do down there right now, the overtime is just astronomical. They're doing more county runs. Just the ambulance has just gotten way a lot going on there. So it's been talked about adding one person more per shift to help alleviate that and to alleviate some of the overtime. But the way the budget is, you have to just weigh that situation out and how that goes. And right now, the best way to be is to pay the overtime, as much as you hate to see those people overworked down there, spending all the extra hours away from their families. They're on 24-hour shifts, once 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, 1 day on call, and then 1 day completely off. So, yeah, the fire department definitely needs some work. That has been my goal since being on the council, and that'll be my goal if I get reelected, to help work with that fire department, try to get them some more staff and get their facilities improved.
Mr. Langdon. Mr. Party, same question. Police Department, Fire Department, do you believe they're adequately staffed, and do they have adequate facilities?
I'd have to agree that the police department is pretty adequately staffed. They do a good job. Like I said, they're short sometimes with the injuries. Their building is being updated slowly, but it's a really nice place to be. It finds pretty well. Fire department, like I said, is a different story. There are so many calls, and it's increasing every year on the ambulance fire runs. We made a deal the last couple of years with the county, and we're actually broadening how far out our ambulance crews go. So rather than just doing city to hospital, we're doing so much more, city to Wymore, city to Blue Springs, city to Lincoln, a whole lot. So it is something we need to look at eventually, is a new fire station. The time wasn't right when we looked at it a couple of years ago because the bond issue probably would never made it. We need to look at either doing a substation, maybe for an ambulance to the south area, where we support Wymore more in the southern Beatrice. But we'll talk about that as time goes on. We're doing fine the way it is. We're getting by, but we should do a lot better with it still.
Thank you. Now we're going to switch back for the fourth question that we'll start with the, Gary, you started with that question, didn't you? Okay. So now we get to start back here. Don't try and slide on me, Joe. We're going to start with you. Do you think that group homes and rehabilitation facilities should be allowed at the former bed and breakfast in Beatrice? Explain.
And explain. I think I was at the meeting the other night, and the way they came up with the special use permit, I have no problem with them being located out there. I would think that the facility that's speaking about coming out there, I don't see that they're a harm to anybody. I think it's a voluntary, the people want to be there, and I think it's a Christian-based organization. I don't see where it's going to hurt anybody. I would think it'd be a positive to have them as a neighbor. I don't see any problem with it at all. So.
Okay. Mr. Langdale, same question. Do you think that the group homes or rehabilitation facilities should be allowed at the former bed and breakfast?
We definitely need something for group rehab. They came to the council to have that area rezoned. They had half of that donated to them when they have to buy the other half. So they're the ones that pick the facility or the location, not us. Whether it's a prime location, that's not for me to decide, but we definitely need a rehab center. That was the location they chose. It's going through planning and zoning to get the rezoning done, but I'm definitely in support of a drug and or drug rehab for this area to help get people back on the right track again.
Mr. Langdale? Mr. Party, same question. Do you think the group home or rehabilitation facility should be allowed at the former bed and breakfast?
I think they should be allowed, and I think planning and zoning and the city attorney worked really well to come up with a special use option. I think that's by far the best way to go. We have some controls. I really thought it was ironic that for over 100 years that area belonged to the BSDC. That was a state facility. It's the same, the population was way different than what it is now, so a lot more concerns. This group's a wonderful group, it looks like to me, and I think they deserve to be here.
Mr. Frerick, same question.
Yes, my first concern, I felt that the folks should have probably checked into the zoning of that facility prior. They didn't. It sounds like at last night's meeting, with the help of the city attorney and the planning and zoning committee, that they come up with a way to resolve it. My personal feeling is that those type of facilities are unfortunately a necessary facility. These 12 people, I don't see them as a threat to Beatrice or the area that they're in. I think that unfortunately they started out on a left foot, but with the guidance of the city attorney, planning and zoning, and city council, I believe it's resolved, and they'll prove that in the near future.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Frerichs. Mr. Langdale, I think we're going to call this the last question before we go to summation, but we're going to start with you. What types of funding sources do you support for improving streets in Beatrice?
Well, we obviously aren't going to do a bond issue or anything to come to the voters. The voters showed us they didn't want that, so that's why I was a big supporter of it going to the voters for that, to let them decide whether we needed to put that much money in our streets, and they decided no against that. So now, city administrator and the street department superintendent have been working to see where they can cut dollars, save dollars, and just can you continue to the path we're going at the current time until we figure out a way to come up with some big dollars for funding in order to do major repairs, which some of our roads are in big need because the state has cut back on their funding source that we get from them. Our gas tax money's cut back for the funding we get from that, so there just isn't a lot of sources out there anymore to get the funding to help do our roads repair. So we're gonna have to do some deep digging and some deep deciding and figure out where we can get the funds to continue down the path we're going.
Mr. Party, the same question. What types of funding sources do you support for improving streets in Beatrice?
We looked at several options when we started debating over this because it was losing money. We needed to have some improvements made. We thought the fairest one would be the sales tax. It may not have been advertised, promoted the best we could have done. One of the other options would be leave it alone. We couldn't do that because the roads need to be repaired. We have other options of doing a mandatory wheel tax, and we thought that wasn't the correct way to do that. When everybody uses the road, we'd use sales tax. So like Alan said, we're going to need to work with the street department supervisor and see where we can shorten up some other projects because there's always changing ideas.
Mr. Frerichs, same question. Sources for funding for streets.
That's a great question, and that's a difficult one. I think we have some people in place in the street department now. We're going to have to pick his brain, work with other department heads and the city council and figure a way out. It's going to be difficult. I agree. The sales tax thing, the people spoke. They didn't want it. They want good streets. Takes money. We have to be patient. We have to work diligently. We'll find a way to attack this issue. I think with all the people that are in place now and will be coming on board, they'll get the situation figured out. It won't be an easy one, but they'll get it out. They'll get it figured out. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mr. Bilsbach, same question. Where's the funding sources for the street department coming from?
We have some kind of magic wand that we can wave, or probably not. I don't know. Obviously we went before the city, before the community, and voted on it, and they voted down a city sales tax. The more things get worn down, I think the more people are going to start looking back at that and say maybe that was a good, option. Maybe that we do need to work on the tax. So maybe it's something we need to bring back in a year or two. Look at doing another sales tax. Maybe get it more out before the public, explain it a little bit more than just shoving it down their throat. I don't know. I don't know a lot of good funding sources. I thought from the initial source that we could maybe do a wheel tax, but I'm not real educated on that. I guess I'd have to look and see. I agree. I think we got a good street supervisor now. I think that working with him and crunching numbers and trying to figure out what needs to be fixed first, I think we'll work through it and try to make ends meet. So.
Thank you. Well, let's go to our closing remarks, and Mr. Party, we're going to start with you for your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for moderating this. Thanks to the Chamber for posting this project. It's always fun to look forward to this when we do it. It's nice to be in front of the cameras, yeah. I've enjoyed the last 12 years. Like I said, we've had some hard times. When I first got on, the economy was much better. It was much easier to spend money. The last 7, 10 years, whatever, the economy's gotten worse. We have to find trickier ways and lower some of the expectations of our major projects. I think new members coming to the council, it's important to have those, but sometimes you need to have some experience here. If we have too many new faces, like we've recently had 3 new additions to the council, it's important to keep the senior people around just for a while at least. I'd appreciate your vote in November. unless you're doing mail-in, then vote for me sooner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Party. Mr. Frericks, your closing remarks.
And thank you for the chamber. Thank you, Jim, for hosting this, and for everyone in the audience and at home. My pledge to the folks in Ward 3 is simple. I'll represent you and your interests first and foremost. I will always be truthful and aggressive in keeping you informed about any of the city's business. Key point, I will be accessible when you need me. I encourage you to come to me and ask questions. I work out of my home, I'm available, and I would encourage that. I will be as frugal with your tax dollars as I've been with my own. I believe with the new leadership that we can grow Beatrice as a business and recreational hub for southeast Nebraska, a place where your families, middle-aged folks, senior citizens will want to come to live, work, and retire. I would appreciate the privilege to serve the people of the 3rd Ward in November of this year. Your vote would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Bilsbach, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Jim, for moderating this, and thank you for the chamber for hosting it. Thanks for everybody out in the audience and at home listening. Yeah, I really enjoy this. Like Dwight said, this is the funnest thing to do, sit up here in front of everybody. So I've really enjoyed actually getting to come to the meetings and sitting in and listening to all the problems and the problem solvings that these guys do. It's been a pleasure, and it's been fun going out meeting the citizens in my ward. Last time I went out and walked and tried to hit about every household I could out in my ward and talk with people, and it's very interesting to talk with everybody and find out where they live and find out their problems and what their cares and their concerns are. So I just ask for everybody to think of me when you're voting, and thank you very much.
Mr. Bilsbach. Mr. Langdale, your closing remarks.
Once again, thanks, Jim, for your time you spend doing all these moderations. In closing, I'd like to once again thank the Chamber for putting on this forum. Thanks to my opponent, Joe Bilsbach, on attending the forum so we could discuss our differences, and thank you to the audience and viewers at home for watching the forum again. Everything I love is here in Beatrice, so when I say that I care about this city and its future, I really mean it. I want to see our city flourish and our citizens succeed. We have some difficult times ahead of the city of Beatrice, but also many opportunities, as I have seen during my first term on the Beatrice City Council. My experience on the council has shown me that we must continue to create jobs to keep people in our community. We must continue to control spending. We must continue to keep taxes as low as possible. Not one person alone can solve all the issues facing Beatrice and Gage County. It takes everyone's effort. During my first term, I spent time with department heads to learn and see how the city operates firsthand. I will continue to be a 24/7 council member that will devote time to learning and relearning as much as I can about the city, our dedicated employees, council members, and our community to ensure that the council keeps bringing common sense solutions to our great community. To those ends, I would like to thank the people of the 4th Ward for electing me to the City Council and would appreciate your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langdale. Well, that concludes the second part of our forum, and thank you, all four of you, for participating. We're going to take another about 5-minute break and get the mayoral candidates up here. I'd like to welcome everyone back for the third and final portion for this evening. We've got the two mayoral candidates for the city of Beatrice, Mr. Gib Hedges and Mr. Stan Worth. And Mr. Hedges, let's get right to it with your opening remarks.
Okay, opening remarks. Name is Del G. Hedges II, a.k.a. Gib Hedges, running for mayor of Beatrice, 2014. Life before Gibbs Place, I was in college for 6 years at the university. I did a lot of advertising, public relations, that sort of stuff. I got kind of tired of that, so then I bought that little rundown bar down the street called Gibbs Place. And I was there for 30 years, and that was my second career. And I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Hedges.
I'll save the rest till the last 3 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Worth, your opening remarks.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Stan Worth. I've been a resident of Beatrice now for 43 years. I'm a lifelong Nebraska resident. I grew up on a dairy farm in Otoe County. My folks had 6 children, and they kept us on the dairy farm working all the time. And so our work ethic turned out to be pretty decent. I operated heavy equipment after I graduated from high school, and graduated from the University of Colorado at Boulder, studying 2 subjects, marketing and bank lending. Currently the market president of Pinnacle Bank. Prior to being in the banking business, I was in the broadcasting business, worked for radio station KWBE, went to broadcasting school under the GI Bill. I'm currently chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, president of Beatrice Main Street, member of the Beatrice Community Hospital Foundation Board, a member of the Humane Society, serves as its vice president, member of the Ag Advisory Committee of Southeast Community College. My wife Cheryl has her own insurance business in Beatrice. We have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. My priorities for this community is community growth through community involvement. And we have a network of volunteers within this community that is unprecedented in any community. These are people that work very hard every day for this community, and we don't have to pay them. So the return is absolutely excellent. I'm just Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, Engage, Friends of the Homestead, Friends of the Library, Airport Authority, Keep Beatrice Beautiful, all the city boards that are within the community, and all of the service clubs. I think we're extremely fortunate to have that group of people working for this community and for the betterment of the community on a daily basis.
Mr. Worth, we're going to start with you then for your first question. And this may be a trick question. Since the mayor of Beatrice doesn't usually vote unless there's a tie, what do you think is the single largest responsibility of the mayor?
To break the tie. And I firmly believe that. If you're an elected official, you have the responsibility to make that decision. And my decision would be to break the tie.
Okay. Mr. Hedges, mayor doesn't usually vote, but what do you think is the single largest responsibility of the mayor?
I'm going to go with Stan. I think the mayor needs to vote to break a tie. I guess that's all I can say.
I'm going to follow up on that, okay?
Okay.
You don't have to break the tie.
You don't.
What's your second biggest job and responsibility?
To being the mayor, you would have to ask that question, wouldn't you? I've never been the mayor. I don't have any idea for sure what the biggest thing would be. It would probably be keeping the city in order and keeping the city council in order and make sure that daily things go on as normal as they can.
Mr. Worth, I'm going to hit you up on that. What's the second job?
I think the mayor has to be a visible representative of the community, and one that is not only visible but accessible. Obviously, the responsibility is to run a meeting on a regular basis with some decorum, to treat the public that appears before the city council with respect, and I guess the biggest thing is that the visibility and how you represent the community. As mayor, you are the figurehead, and you are the one out front, and you need to be the one that I guess represents our community in the best interests of the community.
Mr. Hedges, we're going to start with you for the second question.
Okay.
Let's talk about Engage. The city provides $100,000 per year to promote economic development. How would you measure the success of this group, and how much time would you give it before trying a different option?
Well, haven't they tried that before, and that people were doing some different stuff with the money than what they were supposed to been doing?
I get asked the questions. You gotta have to answer.
Oh, okay. Let me start over. I haven't had a cigarette for 5 days, so I'm a little edgy. I don't know, I suppose 6 months to 9 months would probably be long enough to see if something's going to work. I think they've tried that in the past. I don't know what's going on right now for sure, but the last time they tried this, I believe the funds were going in the wrong places, as I understand. But like I said, I've never been the mayor, so I'm not for sure how to answer that.
Mr. Worth, same question. If you were mayor, $100,000 a year to Engage currently, how would you measure the success of this group, and how much time would you give it?
I think you need to set quarterly benchmarks, and I don't think you set the bar too high to begin with. I think that bar raises second year, third year of funding. But I also think in cooperation with Engage and to allow that board time to get their feet under them, so to speak, we need to build relationships with our job recruitment partners also, which includes the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, Black Hills Energy, Workforce Development, and Nebraska Public Power and their Economic Development Group. I say workforce development because if we're going to try to recruit jobs and retain jobs in this community, we need to by far find out what type of workers they're looking for. We've got a tremendous synergy in Southeast Community College. The administration of Southeast Community College is very much aware of the needs of the community and are ready and willing to formulate and write curriculum that will enhance or train workers for the workforce within this community. But I think, going back to your original question, I kind of got off the subject, but Engage, give them some time, set the benchmarks on a quarterly basis, and I think they'll be just fine.
Mr. Worth, we're going to stick with you for the third question here. If you are elected mayor, are there any particular city departments where you see a need for change?
I think the Beatrice Fire Department is extremely crowded. I met with Brian Dakey for a couple of hours, and when I was walking through his equipment room, you had to walk sideways just because of everything was, it just seemed like it was awful crowded. If you go into their sleeping quarters, I've gone on hunting trips before, and we've never had that many guys in one room that they have, and it's very cramped, very cumbersome. I think the Beatrice Fire Department is something that has to have some attention.
Mr. Hedges,
Yes.
same question. If you are elected mayor, are there any particular city departments where you see a need for change?
Well, as I drive around town from time to time, I see there's a lot of, police always have new cars. I don't know if that's necessary. I see the city always has new trucks. I don't know if that's necessary. And the fire department, well, they have 2 hook and ladder trucks, as I understand. Maybe they sold one, but there's not a building tall enough in Beatrice to need a hook and ladder truck. And Stan's probably right. They're probably quarters are small down there. I've never been down there, so. Okay.
Next question. Let's try this one. Mr. Hedges, a lot of opinions have been offered over the years on how to save downtown Beatrice. What's your plan?
Well, obviously, none of the plans have worked. I've been thinking about this. I've been in town for many, many, many years, and I see the downtown leaving, and I'm thinking, what could a guy do down there? I really don't know. All those empty buildings and people going to Walmart, and it's pretty sad, actually. I don't have a plan right now. Right now, I think there's a lot of used furniture places down there, a lot of used junk stores, just taking up space. I don't know, raise sheep down there maybe, I don't know. I'll have to get back with you.
Mr. Worth, a lot of opinions have been offered over the years on how to save downtown Beatrice. What's your plan?
I think there is funding available for studies of a revitalization program. I think we need to investigate what those funding sources are, how much and at what extent that revitalization program would entail. I think the Chamber works diligently all the time. Main Street works diligently all the time to try to bring businesses to the downtown area. Part of our problem is the absentee ownership. We have folks that have had subtype of roots here in Beatrice that have owned buildings or still own buildings but live elsewhere. And it's very difficult to try to get those folks to sell their buildings. There is money available to purchase buildings. We would, Main Street, for instance, would love to purchase a building and put an incubator program in there, a business incubator program, which would then try to help jumpstart other businesses that are trying to locate within the community, startups.
Let's see, let's try question number 5. Mr. Worth, we're going to stick with you. How much responsibility does the city and county have in setting a tone for economic development activities for Engage?
Great question, and you know, I'm very positive about the working relationship with the city and county. That has to be paramount. If in fact we are unable to work in harmony, we're both pulling at each other. The fact that there's basically an interlocal agreement right now where $100,000 is earmarked on an annual basis for economic development, I think is really a step in the right direction, and one that is very beneficial to the community.
Thank you. Mr. Hedges, the same question. How much responsibility does the city and county have in setting a tone for economic development activities for Engage?
Well, as far as I could see, would be the city should be behind it to keep it going, to keep it growing. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this situation. I've never been the mayor before, but I'm sure if it come up, I could figure it out what the problem would be or how to fix the problem. Other than that, I don't know.
We're going to hit the 6th question here before we go to closing arguments, or closing arguments. I slipped that wrong hat on, didn't I?
Let's get on. I like that.
Mr. Hedges, do you think that group homes and rehabilitation facilities should be allowed at the former bed and breakfast facility?
I don't see why not. I've heard different people talk about it where they said it could be, the people that are in there could be dangerous, but I don't understand that way. But I think it should be okay to, I'm not for sure what the group home is going to be. Is that the one that could be the state home, I guess, at the state farm, or the farm out there, which would be okay, I guess. In my book, I think it'd be fine. I don't have any problem with it.
Mr. Worth, same question.
Repeat it, please.
Do you think that group homes and rehabilitation facilities should be allowed at the former bed and breakfast?
Yes. As chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we made that decision through cooperation with the city attorney to recommend to the city council that a special use permit should be allowed in agricultural zoning. This is the 2-mile radius of Beatrice. Their original proposal was a permitted use, which if you would take a funnel, and at the top of the funnel on the permitted use within the 2-mile radius of Beatrice, that could incorporate all types of different businesses without any regulation. An application could be made, and if we made that a permitted use, just about any type of business could locate there. As you look at the bottom of the funnel, if you go to a special use permit, there is some control by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The special use permit actually goes with the land. However, special stipulations or language could be put within the special use permit that says that if there is a change in use, that it comes back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This will come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission in October, and the Planning and Zoning Commission has the ability, without going back to the City Council, to make the final determination of whether or not the special use permit will be granted.
We're going to start with you, Mr. Worth, for your closing remarks.
Among the bits of down-home philosophy, if you will, attributed to Abraham Lincoln, one of my favorites is the fact that people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. And that doesn't mean that we live in a constant state of euphoria, but rather that tells us that we're the architects of our own happiness and despair. And I think we have a synergy within this community right now that will create a better Beatrice, a better life for young people. When we talk about young people, we have a lot of young entrepreneurs, we have a lot of young businessmen that work here today. Some of them live here, some of them don't. We need to make sure that as we move forward with this community, that we put every resource available at our disposal to try to keep those young folks here. Most of us understand the synergetic effect of working together, and the common goal, in my opinion, is a better Beatrice. I appreciate the Chamber and their hosting this, and Jim, your moderation, and I would appreciate your vote on November 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Worth. Mr. Hedges, your closing remarks.
Yes, I'd like to mention the fact that my wife and I, Pam and I, have been together for 18 years, and we sold the Barb Gibbs place in 2012. And I'm not involved in any club or organization. I don't play golf. I'm semi-retired, and I have plenty of time to be my third career as the mayor of Beatrice. And I would like to thank people for having me here. And I don't know I have all the questions, but I'm sure sooner or later I'll know the answers. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hedges. This concludes our forum for this evening. On behalf of the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce, we'd like to thank all of the candidates for their participation, obviously the Beatrice Public Schools for the use of the facilities, and the City of Beatrice for their broadcast time. I'd be a little remiss if I didn't thank Patrick Etheridge and Doug Kennedy and Dave Needfeld, the Daily Sun and the KWBE for helping put some questions together before we started. And I appreciate the audience adding some questions to flesh out some of the remarks, and our chamber staff for helping out tonight. And remember, get out and vote. If you don't vote, you don't get to gritch about it.